Hello! Today, aside from doing regular reviews of products, I'm also going to demonstrate one for you. Today, I'm going to make a dog plush out of a classic sewing pattern and lovely fabric. And the proud sewing machine I'm going to use is a Singer Simple 3337 Singer sewing machine. Right here is a McCall sewing pattern. Style L9571. There are two patterns for this. Requirements are a yard. There are cats and puppy, but for now I'm going to do a dog. Mainly because I don't want to do the long tail because I don't think I have enough fabric for that. But they're both equally adorable nonetheless. As you can see right here, I already started to pin the pattern pieces onto the fabric. The fabric I use is a very special type of fabric used for making stuffed animals. Right here, you can see how soft it is right here, and on this, well, this part is actually important because if you don't have it, then the whole thing will come apart. I tried that before. I bought a type of fabric like this before, but it was hard to use because it kept falling apart. This is much better. Also, you can see right here, I'm going to be using this. A nice spool holder with the hook. That'll help guide this long thread. I could have put it on top of the sewing machine, but it would be very difficult to turn. I'll post the links down in the comments so you can order this amazing stuff as well. Also, if you're wondering what this is fabric chalk. This is a special type of pencil of chalk used to trace over a certain thing. Like if I want to find where the right place to put the eye. I could have used my marker, but it's blue and it'll be hard to see. And this is both are very easy to wash off. Though if you're using a marker, I would recommend not to hold it down for so long because even if you use a wipe or wet cloth, it'll be very difficult to clean. Well, it'll clean, it'll just take a long time. Okay, let's begin. Anyway, let's begin. We'll start with cutting the pieces. I like to do it like this, inside out. I believe it'll give you the best results. And wonder who was flying about? That's my roommate. The reason why this is important because if you sew a line right here, it'll look like this. So that way, no loose ends. Or, well, sorry, I'm new at this. This part where I'm cutting up now is the front. set this aside for now. This part is front A, and what I'm doing is cutting 2 pieces right here. Okay, now that we have the pieces cut out, before we start sewing, I thought it would be easier to start putting on the eyes. What I'm going to do is use safety eyes and noses. These are sources, various colors, sizes, and shapes. I figured that this type of nose would be adorable, as well as these brown eyes. Oh, let's do the bigger ones. Now, before we start, I do want to measure how big to make sure these washers fit. Too big. Too big. This type of safety eye set also came with 2 different sizes, big and small. Just do this, like before, like this. See if it'll fit, but don't push it in, otherwise it could probably be almost impossible to take out. Perfect. Now that we have the washers and the eyes, we're ready to start piercing. What I like to do is to use a seam splitter. Right here you can see a patch of fabric chalk. That's where the eye will be placed. Now, carefully expand it just a little. Don't make it too big or else the whole thing will come off. Make sure you put the eyes in the right side. Make sure your eyes here in the right side, not the wrong side of the pattern. We'll wait. The nose can wait, but we're not just for extra security. Even though I don't advise you using this as a baby toy, what I would do is cut a good piece of yarn, like so. Make a little loop, then tie it to the safety eye. Do it a few more times. And sometimes you can loop twice for extra security. Then, I would like to do it a 3rd time. And cut off the extra yarn. And do the same for the other. I advise not to use this for a baby toy because these things can pop off. Even with this extra security, I prefer to be safe than sorry. Done. Now, we'll start sewing the first parts. First, we'll set these aside. We'll set these the washer and the safety nose side, and the back part. You can tell because there's a tail right here, and this helps the doll set up. Now, you see right here, if you're wondering what this is the mouth. What I'm going to do is stitch these together. So when it's done, it'll look like it's smiling. Then I'll pierce the fabric just a little above it so it'll look like a nose. Make sure what you're doing is inside out. If you make a mistake, don't worry. Just use your seam splitter and carefully split the seams. Make sure you don't be careful not to split any fabric. Now, make sure it's all ready. Threads ready. Bobbins in place. Dial right. I'm going to use this. To choose any of these other styles, like for the red, just simply dial this part for S2, the red one. For the gray one, just simply dial the gray. For this part right here, this is for buttons. It'll come with a box. Your sewing machine will come with the buttons presser foot. For the blue ones, just dial like this. If you dial like this, you can quickly see how the needle is adjusting. Too bright. Sorry about how bright it is. I'm new at this. Okay. Let's begin. I find it best if we start from this part. If you're having trouble, just simply grab a pin to hold it in place. If you want, for this, I advise you use the second one. When you're done, remove the first one. Pause. Sewing machine, like many others, will come with a light so you can see what it's doing. It turns on and off well. You turn it off, the light will go off. Okay. Make sure that it's lined up perfectly so you don't overlap it or something. Let's begin. Grab this part of thread, and help pull the fabric. What this is a basic sewing step. As you can see, I've done half of the mouth, half the face. Now, it's time for the other half. If you have trouble, just simply grab the loose part of thread and pull it away. That way it will be easier for the feed dog to slide. Perfect. Now to start sewing. Make sure these are face forward, inside out. What I like to do sometimes is start with a smaller pin. Put in part where you're starting to sew. Then start putting larger ones. We can start with just a few at a time. And as you move on, pin each part together. But for this, it'll be much better to start at the top and carefully align the mouths together, like so. Now, let's get started. Make sure other pieces like the ears and feet are away from the needle so you don't accidentally sew them on top of the head. Be kind of tricky, but make sure that with your pins, it's kind of tricky to do this with your eyes together, but once you use your pins, it'll be okay. You can start putting them. You can start this. You can put your eyes on your pattern before or after, whichever works best for you. Now, before I go on, I want to pin these parts together. Make sure, be careful, because once that needle pierced your body, pierced your fingers, it's off to the emergency room. So you have to pay attention to what you're doing. And remember, slow and steady wins the race. If you go too fast, you'll make mistakes. This machine also comes with a presser foot. Like all sewing machines, you press on it with your foot to power it up. If you want to go slowly, just press lightly. If you want fast, which I advise you being careful with, press hard. Now for this part, I'm going to leave the needle in so it won't get loose. Raise this presser foot up and drop it back down. So that way it won't create such a curve on the neck part. If you don't put the needle in the fabric while you raise it up, then it'll just get loose. And you'll skip a stitching part. Remember, this will help your thread from getting loose. This practice is what I learned in Girl Scouts, and it's still effective. Now let's see how it is. Adorable. It'll have and lined up perfectly. When you pin together, I advise you pin these parts the mouth parts first, so it lined up perfectly. Now that we have that done, we can start the nose. What I advise is doing it above the mouth, not on the nose. I meant not on the mouth. Be careful not to try to pierce it through the hems, or else thread may get loose. What? Pause. Remember, safety noses can come off easily like safety eyes. And I'm going to do this same technique that I did for the safety eyes. Done. Now that we got the front part done, it's time to move to the back part. It'll have a better shape once it's done and stuffed. Now we can put these away and move to do the back. This is very different from the other. First, we're going to do this part. This part helps the animal set up. So, it's advisable to start this part first. No different than the mouth, actually. Just carefully align. Just do it similar to the way the mouth is. Just do similar to the mouth. Many animal sewing patterns do have this. It's okay to make mistakes. Okay, now these parts are done. We can sew them together. But make sure there's space. Make sure there are no stitches right here, because the back part is where we're going to stuff. Further on, I'll explain to you the process. Make sure stitch around the area. Pin around the area. Now we're moving on to the tail. Now we're moving on. Sorry about the camera. Like I said, I'm new at this. Moving on to the tail. Try to do the same thing we saw earlier with the neck.
Tell me how
Like I said, try to do similar to the neck part. Once you get to it, first stop, make sure the needle's in the fabric, open this up, put it back down after adjusting it. Make sure you don't accidentally sew pins into your work. Now this, you can make a curve. Now, do it again. You can sew a little bit over here, just enough where your hand can actually fit into it. And make sure you can fit the cotton into it for stuffing. What I also like to do is to check to make sure there are no empty spaces in the hems. Okay, now that's done. We pin around here again. Perfect. Now, line this up with a neck gap and start. First, the process that prevents yarn from the thread from being loose. First you sew on a little, go back a little, and sew again. This will prevent the thread from being loose. Done. We're not done with the pattern, but we're done with the back part. Now, with this, we can actually push the tail inward, in right side. Creates a cute little tail. Now it's time to sew around the whole thing. Now, make sure these are facing the wrong way from each other. When we come back, you'll see how pinned up this pattern piece is. What you don't want to do is to do this, because if you put it inside out, you have one part opposite from the other, then the right sides of the fabric won't match up. But quick reminder, I like to try to pin where these two hems together. I like to align them perfectly with each other, so that way the whole thing won't look too crooked. One other thing, if you don't like using pins, then there are also fabric clips where you can clip onto the fabric and it'll stay in place, just like when you place a needle onto fabric. Okay, I got all the parts pinned. What I also like to do is match corners to corners with each other. That way you'll get a more accurate alignment. Now, let's begin. I like to prefer starting. Sorry of terrible quality. I like to start sewing corner. And then, as I sew along, I move a pin one by one till I went all over the pattern. Now let's begin. Even if there is a little gap, and there's a gap, like say right here, if there's a little gap, then you can easily fix that with hand stitching. I'll demonstrate my methods of hand stitching once we're done with here. I also want to share features right here. Right here, there's a thread hole. Sorry. Right here, a thread holder is supposed to be right here. It holds thread spools in place. Mine came with that, but I took it apart. It's removable because the thread spool I'm using is too big. Right here, there's also another one where you can do it on sides. Also came with handle, a bobbin winder, thread tension, reverse stitch, and a wheel where you can adjust it. So you adjust it to rise or lower the needle. Right now, it's going great. We'll check on it in a little while. Okay, now that we have it all done, we can turn it inside out. Simply by pushing it through the hole in the back. They look like a ball. Then slowly pull pieces inside out. You want to push your tail back. Shoot the other parts like the legs, the ears, and the head. Right now, we can turn off the sewing machine, as we won't be needing it anymore. Don't worry, I'm not going to leave everything halfway. I just want to get these other parts out of the way. Rhyme not intended. Make sure to push it so take its shape. What I also like to do is use one of my crocheting hooks to adjust it sometimes to make it shape. Be careful if it's small, may pierce. But these can help you reach the hard to reach places. Done. We may be needing that for later. It's already looking more adorable already, but we're not done yet. We come to the fun part. Stuffing it. What my favorite kind is to use polyfill and branded cotton. Just start with a little bit at a time. Eventually make your way. You may also want to take parts of it so you can adjust. Now, it's important to not make it too stiff. If you want it to be a little floppy, use less. Use less of it. If you want it to be floppy, just try. Sorry about that. Camera died. Anyway, you want to make it floppy, not too stiff like they can't bend. Try to leave consistent space. Just not one or not too much stuffing in one body part. So that way it'll be floppy. I'll check back in with you later. Then we'll see how it's done. Okay, now, as you can see, there's a big hole. But don't worry, we're going to stitch it up. My technique is a little bit special because one strand won't really work. So what I like to do is to double thread what I like to do is put double thread, two threads into the needle. That way it'll be stronger. Now let's begin. This technique I use prevents the stitches from popping. Even though it's kind of hard to see, sometimes in this type of fabric, it's all worth it. We'll check back with you in a little while. Okay. Now the stitching's done, you barely notice, and it's strong. And the result is an adorable little puppy. Adorable puppy. Well, that's it for this tutorial video from Shine's Reviews. Don't forget to click down the links and feel free to look through which pattern you'll love. And have a fantastic day, all you sewers. Bye.